So this is interesting because the way I've always thought of it was having the law of large numbers, which I think is how carriers think, is in my best interest. Because look, there's somebody else who's kind of paying for it. But if they don't know anything about you, just by default, they're going to kind of think you're the average or less, right? Because they've got to err on the side of caution. So yeah, the law of large numbers, as in I've got 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 people that we're insuring, or vehicles, or whatever the case, employees, whatever the case may be. They're bringing all that mass in, but then they see what the average is, and they're going to automatically assume that you're right at that average, unless you show them something that says you're above or below that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they don't, if you can't help that paint that picture, then they're just going to assume that you're average or worse, and that's going to be their default.
Yeah.
So it actually almost kind of hurts you when you say, "Hey, look, I'm shopping for insurance here." The carrier is going to assume, "Hey, I don't have any information on you. I don't have any relationship with you. Just assume the worst." Right?
Yeah, and there's definitely information available. So let's not we're not the end all be all of data. Carriers absolutely have access to third party sources and third party data, and that's increasing every day. So there's information out there, but let's take let's take auto insurance for a second. Commercial auto, you know a little bit about that because you kind of operate in that space. Um, and again, this is my perspective on things. I'm not an actuary, I'm not an underwriter. I work with them, but this is just the way I see it. um, when we're looking at commercial auto, the price, whether it's auto liability, auto physical damage, the price that a carrier puts on something is on the vehicle itself. Okay, regardless of who's driving that vehicle. Okay. Um, and then the way they sort of manage that risk is by looking at a driver list, and some combination of the carriers and the clients are running MVRs, having guidelines. If you have above a certain number of incidents, you're not allowed to drive, and all of that. So they're pricing the insurance on the vehicle and then managing that risk by sort of culling the drivers list to make sure that we've got competent drivers. Um, let's kind of talk about what what they're doing there. Um, I don't know all the statistics, but I think it's kind of common knowledge that what's causing accidents, what's causing losses, both with auto liability. Let's talk about auto liability. Auto physical damage, you have break-ins and things like that, but auto liability losses are accidents, the vast majority of which are caused by people, by drivers who are not paying attention, who are texting while driving, who are eating, drinking, looking the other way, yelling at somebody in the other lane. It's their behaviors that are causing accidents. However, the insurance is not priced on the people. The insurance is priced on the vehicles. But naturally, okay, well, let's vet the drivers. How do we vet the drivers? We pull their MVRs. What's on an MVR? An MVR is two things. It is a lagging indicator, right? And it is basically a snapshot of all the times you got caught. That's it. And so it's better than nothing. And yes, there might be some correlation, and it might be indicative of future incidents and future issues. And yes, they've gotten pulled over for a couple speeding tickets in the last 3 years. It's likely hey, we don't necessarily want this person on our driving list because they drive fast. Well, how do we actually know that? That's a snapshot of like the 0.001% of the time that they were actually on the road in the last 5 years. And you're trying to make some sort of assumption about that. Not to say that it's better than nothing, but my point is there's a lot of information. Talk about blind spots. There's a lot of blind spots in the way that process works. Uh, yeah, I'll
So
stop there. Go ahead.
yeah, I'm kind of chuckling because just as you're saying this, I'm thinking I've got I've got a preteen kid. He loves his computer games like on the iPad, and you look on Friday and Saturday nights, you're allowed to stay up a little bit later. Not a lot of times, but a couple of times we've caught him. He'll sneak it underneath his pillow, and everyone's gone to sleep, and 11:30 at night, he's playing on his iPad late at night. He's not supposed to be doing that. But if I catch him twice doing that, out of 365 days out of a year, he may have only done it twice. But then I come down hard on him saying, hey, look, you're constantly breaking the rules and you're out of bounds here. I am, I don't know. I'm grounding you. No more iPad for the next week and a half. Well, it was based on 2 days out of 365. I mean, I don't know what the real number is, right? But I think that's what you're saying is there's a little bit of witchcraft and sorcery and kind of potions and stuff that a carrier's got to come up with because they've got a very limited amount of information about what's happening, and they've got to make a judgment based on that.
Well,
So
I'm sorry, Vinay. Well, that's exactly why the law of large numbers is useful.
okay.
Is because over a big enough sample set, you can draw some correlations, and that if you've got a certain set of guidelines, you're making a judgment call on this one person, and the 2 speeding tickets they got in the last 3 years, that could have been the 2 times in the last 3 years that they sped, or they could be speeding every time they're on the road, and those were the 2 times they got caught. And the answer is probably somewhere in the middle, of course, but carriers they can have a higher degree of confidence overall over their whole book of business because they've got such a large sample set. And so it all sort of works itself out. But for any one individual business, you're taking a blunt object when you could be taking a scalpel. It's not a great method when you're arguing over one individual driver or one business. I mean, I'll just give you an example. Just this week, I was going back and forth with a carrier. The driver, new hire, can he be on the driver's list? We were looking at his MVR, going back and forth with the carrier, and it ultimately came down to a non-contributing accident that individual was involved in. Did that count as a violation or not? And the answer to that question was going to determine whether, now he had some other things. Okay. So, but the answer to that question was going to determine if he was going to be allowed on the driving list. And for something that happened like 2 or 3 years ago. And so they were trying to make a call as to whether he would be a good driver going forward. So, basically it's a binary answer, and they were trying to make it that determination. And so it's not to say what they're doing is wrong. There's just a lot of opportunity to have a lot more granularity of data and real-time data to make better decisions around, underwriting an individual risk.
So, and by the way, one thing is a couple of things. I've noticed we've got some more people that have joined in from on various platforms, on our live platforms. Tell us who you are. Tell us where you're from. Love to see who's on. Get something out of the session. Get something out of this, and ask us questions. Just tell us who you are. Love to engage with you and see what we can do and tailor the conversation and the experience for you. Also, I've heard you use the word MVR, the acronym MVR, motor vehicle record, is what that means, right, Zander?
Yep.
So I want to shift a little bit here, right? We've been talking about this blind spot that a lot of people think that going to insurance carriers is about finding the cheapest rate. But in actuality, it's not about finding the cheapest rate. It's finding the carrier that understands your story the best. Because who understands your story the best is the one who can offer you the best rate. So, all right, I'll bite. It's about telling the story. How do I tell them the story? What can I do to tell them the story? What data can I share?
Who are you? You're the customer?
Yeah, I'm a business. I got 17 vehicles on the road.
Mhm.
I'm kind of getting a little bit bigger now, and my insurance costs are starting to become something that I want to control or have some capability of turning the dials on. What can I do? What can I share with you as a broker that helps paint a better picture or story?
Um, so if you were setting yourself up for Carmo, uh, you did a pretty good job. Obviously, any kind of real-time data that you're able to show that demonstrates good performance is 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 a good start. So in our industry, we have applications that we
Well,
have to complete.
and Xander, I wasn't necessarily trying to set anything up there. Just so much from the point of view of if somebody's listening in on this,
Mhm.
what can they do with what they already have today to start this narrative, this dialogue to be a little bit better today, right?
Sure.
And there's advanced versions of that. I think is sort of the next place
Yeah.
we can go eventually, right?
Yeah. Um, I think it starts with really looking at your policies and procedures around driver selection, around vehicle maintenance, and if you're putting yourself um, in the shoes of the underwriter, actuary, the carrier. And by the way, I'd love for anybody that's on this call right now that is in that position. I'd love to let them chime in as well, just to give their perspective. But they want some confidence that the risk that you have is a good one, and so you're doing that by showing how you're vetting on the front end, how you keep your vehicles maintained, and the losses will speak for themselves. Carriers have access to something called loss runs that just shows any claims that you've had over that time. But really, any uh, showing continuous improvement and a track record of that, and showing that you're constantly looking to identify the issues that may lead to some kind of loss and showing what you've done about it.